Welcome to the Positive Sports Podcast. I'll be your host this evening, Ed Montana. As you can see, I have no one alongside me today. My brother Alex is busy with some other stuff going on, and so tonight, unfortunately for you guys, you get Positive Sports Podcast Light. You get just one voice, and you just get to hear me rant on my opinions. As always, folks, if you want to share your opinions with us, you can reach the show via email at positivesports10@gmail.com, positivesports10@gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of me on Twitter, you can do so at emontana21. And if you want to get a hold of the co-host Alex, you can reach him on Twitter as well at BrooklynGaucho1. So here we are, just a couple of weeks from the NFL season starting. And we had the biggest bombshell of them all dropped on us yesterday. Actually, it was on Saturday. Dropped on us from the Indianapolis Colts camp, where Andrew Luck announced that he was retiring from the NFL. Now, it's been a bit of a whirlwind for the last 2 days. It's certainly provided a lot of conversation topics for people on ESPN and Fox and the NFL Network and whatnot. And now I'm going to talk about it. But really, it's the man's personal choice. He's been through a lot physically. And now, I'm not an athlete on his level, for sure. I run a lot and I run some marathons. But at the end of the day, I don't do it for a living, right? I'm not providing for my family this way. It is purely for fun and entertainment and camaraderie with my friends. And let me tell you, training and rehabbing is not easy. For those of you out there that have not done it, it's a pain in the ass. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. It is a royal pain in the ass. And I'd imagine that the pressure to get back out on the field, to get back out on the court, or whatever, is great when that is your bread and butter, so to speak, when that is the way you provide for your family. And Andrew Luck, over the last few years, has been through a lot of it. A lot of rehab and a lot of injuries and a lot of physical ailments, right, that have precluded him from playing the game that he loves and, I mean, to a certain extent, providing for his family, right? He went through a very serious shoulder problem a couple years ago. He came back last year. It has been a difficult ride for him. And I don't think the guy owes anybody anything. At the end of the day, his main responsibility in life is to his family, is to himself and to his family. And that's it. He doesn't owe us, the fans, anything. He doesn't owe the NFL anything. He doesn't owe the Colts anything. And quite frankly, he doesn't owe his teammates anything. Now, those are in different order, for sure. But at the end of the day, his responsibility is to himself and his family. I always tell people this. We are all CEOs in a way. I am a CEO. I am a CEO of this business that I call my house and my family. I am the leader, and I have to make sure that everybody's healthy, everybody's happy, everybody's well fed, we have a place to live, a retirement plan. I have to make sure of all that stuff. Insurance. I have to make sure that we are well in every form and facet. I am a CEO. And the decisions that I make in life are for the betterment of this business, this entity, my household, my wife, my kids, my family, my home. And that's Andrew Luck's responsibility as well. Now, Andrew Luck happens to do it in front of 60,000 screaming fans every week, in front of millions of viewers on TV. But at the end of the day, he's a CEO of his own entity, of the Andrew Luck household. I don't know if he's married or not. I don't want anyone to get upset with me, but if you're married, you're a co-CEO, right? Because your spouse helps run the ship as well. But he is a CEO of his household, of his entity, of his business, of his brand, of his family. He's got to do what's best for them, for all of them, for his wife, for his kids, for himself, for his parents, whatever his entity is, right? He has to do what's best for them. And I thought it was really unfortunate. Welcome to the Positive Sports Podcast. I'll be your host. Sorry, my phone just got all crazy. At the end of the day, he has to do what's best for that entity. And look, it's disappointing that the fans in Indianapolis used that time that they had with him on the field. One of the last few times they'll see him on the field, that they used that time to boo him. I thought that was very unfortunate. I thought it was classless. That guy has played through some serious injuries. He has rehabbed through some serious problems. And now, when he says enough is enough for his own health, for his own sanity, you boo him? Really? You know? Why? Because you had him on your fantasy team? Come on. It's really unfortunate that the Indianapolis fans behave that way. I've been to a game in Indianapolis in the Lucas Oil Dome or whatever it's called. And I thought they were great fans. Respectful fans. Unfortunately, those are not the same fans that showed up on Saturday night. Those fans were a shame. Really. I mean, we talk about fans. You know, Philly fans get a bad rap. But what Indianapolis fans did on Saturday night was just as bad as anything I've seen before in sports. It was terrible. And they should be ashamed of themselves. And I'm sure it wasn't everyone. I'm sure it wasn't the entire building. Heck, I'm sure the building wasn't full. Preseason football is really quite tame. And, you know, half of them were probably bored. Half of them probably didn't even know why they were booing. But for those fans that booed, it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. It's classless, really. You don't know what that guy's been through. That guy's been playing football since he was a little kid. That guy's been through several injuries, some very serious. He played with a lacerated kidney at some point. I don't even know what the kidney does, but that doesn't sound like something you should be playing football, a full contact sport with. I'm no doctor, but I think a lacerated kidney, you shouldn't be playing football. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the lacerated kidney means you should not be playing a sport where there are 300-pound linemen trying to hit you and bring you to the ground aggressively. I'm no doctor, but I think a lacerated kidney means you should take a day off. And yet this guy went out there and played football for you guys. You same guys in Indianapolis who booed him on Saturday night because the guy made a decision that he felt was best for his family, for himself and his family. How dare he? Come on, people. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Those fans should be ashamed of themselves. And for the people questioning his toughness, this is going to kind of get me off on a different tangent here, but I've gotten to the point where I used to get on Twitter and I used to see some of the comments made by some of the talking heads on ESPN, and I used to respond. I no longer respond. I realize that what these people, these talking heads do sometimes is they say the most outlandish thing they can say so that someone will click on their stupid video clip, so that someone will follow them in order to be able to DM him or her and tell them how stupid they are. They say outlandish stuff like, Andrew Luck is being a wimp here. It was just a lower leg injury. They just say that so that more people will click on their article, on their TV show. More people will tune in. More people will go to the Fox website or the ESPN website to read the article, to hear what XYZ talking head said. I'm not going to glorify those people. I'm not going to give their names out. I need the clicks too. I refuse to do it. I refuse to put those people's names on this podcast. But they are embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I mean, if you're going to say something stupid and outlandish, why don't you just say, hey, he's retiring because he's decided he wants to make his own cocaine farm. Why don't you say something outlandish like that? Why don't you say something really ridiculous? What's the point of that? You're going to disparage this guy's name for what? For a few clicks? Don't you have something, I don't know, something relevant to say? Don't you have something positive to say about the guy? Why can't we look back at his career and look at what he's done? He came back from a serious shoulder injury, won Comeback Player of the Year, took his team to the playoffs. Why don't we say that? Why don't we talk about his philanthropic endeavors? Why don't we talk about the fact that he was a great student athlete at Stanford? Why don't we talk about that? Instead of talking about him being a wimp because he couldn't play through a lower leg injury, because he couldn't rehab a lower leg injury. That makes him not tough enough because he's doing it 2 weeks before the season starts. Who cares? The man came to a decision. You are the same people that would bash him unmercifully if he played terrible football this year because his heart wasn't in it, because he was playing hurt. But yet you have the audacity to talk bad about his decision, about how he's being a wimp. Come on. Grow up. Get your clicks the old-fashioned way. Say something interesting. Say something factual. Say something people want to hear. So, I think I've admonished Indianapolis fans and talking heads on ESPN and Fox enough. But it is really unfortunate that is the way this story is turned. I would rather talk about what a great player he was, what a great person he was, what a horrible beard he had. Some people may like the beard. I thought it was terrible, but whatever. To each his own. I grow a mustache in November. Everyone thinks it's terrible. So, at least it's food for thought, or at least conversation. I would rather talk about that stuff. I know it's disappointing to the organization. I understand that it's disappointing to the fans. I understand that it's very disappointing to his teammates. I feel bad for them having to answer all the questions now, having to deal with the distraction. But I also think it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for Jacoby Brissett to really show what kind of NFL quarterback he is. He's not bad. For those of you that think the Colts are now destined for a 3-13 season, not so fast. They still have a good offensive line. They still have good skill position players. They still have a great receiver in T.Y. Hilton. And Jacoby Brissett is not a bad quarterback. He's not Andrew Luck. Not yet. He may groom himself into being Andrew Luck. But he's not bad. It's not like you're going to have me out there throwing the ball, although I do have a great last name. But it won't be me throwing the football. I can really sling it. I just, not accurate. And I don't know how to read defenses. Does anyone know how to? I have a hard time reading English. I'm good with numbers. I'm really good with numbers. But I can't read defenses. But Indianapolis fans, you don't have to worry about that because I'm not your quarterback. Jacoby Brissett is. And Jacoby Brissett did well when Andrew Luck was out a couple years ago. And he will do well going forward. So I think for people that are automatically taking the under on Indianapolis wins, whatever that number is, I don't even know. Not so fast. I'm sure the numbers come down. But the Colts are going to be okay. And I think Jacoby Brissett will do a good job. So I would rather talk about that. That really is the biggest, and that is the biggest story by far in the NFL this week. We're down to the last week of the preseason where the starters really play. I saw a statistic about passes thrown by, top-notch quarterbacks. And Wentz hasn't thrown a pass. Didn't throw a pass this last week. Rodgers, I don't think even played. Why are we doing this preseason thing again? Really, why are we doing it? It's just, it seems kind of boring. It seems kind of useless. It seems kind of not necessary. Just not necessary. But, that's the way it goes. We do the preseason thing. But next week will be even worse because none of the starters will play. None of the big name starters will play. It'll be all the guys in second, third string, guys that are likely to be cut, that are looking for a job somewhere. So it won't be very interesting next week. One of the things that has caught my eye, or actually my brother's eye, because he's the one that brought it to my attention, but Le'Veon Bell hasn't played. I mean, he was out for a whole year. Shouldn't he be playing a little bit? I mean, a little bit? He's already done the holdout thing. Shouldn't you play a little bit? I think half the reason these guys hold out in the preseason is because they don't want to play. And Le'Veon Bell has worked out a deal, I guess, with the Jets where he doesn't have to play. He's worked out a deal where he says, look, man, I'm not playing. I'll sign with you guys, but I'm not playing in those stupid preseason games that don't mean anything. I refuse to do it. And quite frankly, I can't say I blame him, but I find it kind of weird. Like, I would think he would want to play a little bit just to kind of get his bearings, but I guess once a running back, always a running back, you don't need to play. Other news and notes in the NFL. From a local perspective, right? Obviously, I get a ton of Houston Texans news living in the Houston area. Very unfortunate to hear about Lamar Miller, who tore his ACL, is likely out for the season. They were trying to deal Clowney. They've been trying to deal him all preseason, have not found a taker. And now my guess is for the Texans, they're going to try a little more aggressively to deal Clowney. And I'm sure a lot of teams are going to view this as an opportunity to kind of get Clowney on the cheap, so to speak, because they know the Texans are in a little bit of trouble. They need a running back. And look, it's important. This is an important season for Bill O'Brien, and it's an important season for the Houston Texans. They're a good football team. They're not in a very strong division. They could win the division, really make hay in the playoffs. But a couple of things have to happen. They got to stay healthy. And obviously Lamar Miller going down is a problem. That's a health problem. But also, it cuts into their running game, which makes Deshaun Watson a little more susceptible to getting hit. Makes him a little more susceptible to throwing the ball. Makes him a little more susceptible to running the ball. That's a problem. You don't want to get that guy hurt. Because then the wheels really fall off for that team. And I know everyone thinks that running backs are plug and play, but when you have a good one, you have a good one. You don't want to just lose them. And unfortunately for the Texans, now that Lamar Miller is out for the year, they've lost their running back. And it makes for a very interesting situation with Clowney. How quickly will they be able to get rid of him? How quickly will they be able to move them? What will they get in return? Will teams hardball them? Will they fall for the hardball and say, hey, we got to win now? It's a very interesting situation. Personally, by the very nature of running backs and their plug-and-play characteristics, I don't think I would lower my price that much for Clowney. Clowney is what Clowney is, and people want him. I would hold out, and I would make sure I got a good deal. Has my price dropped a little bit in what I'm asking for Clowney? Maybe. Maybe a little bit if I get the right running back, if I get an offer that really kind of fixes up that problem for me. But I'm not going to give him away for free. He's an asset, and other teams need him, so I'm going to make sure I get my worth. That's just me if I'm the Houston Texans. The other interesting situation that I saw over the weekend, talking about NFL preseason, was Jimmy Garoppolo. He played in his second preseason game this weekend, and it was better than the week before, but not much. Kind of hard to fall off the floor, huh? It was bound to be better. I mean, his quarterback rating was 0 2 weeks ago. And I don't think you can go negative. So it wasn't going to get any worse. But boy, that didn't look impressive either. And if you're a San Francisco fan, he's coming off a knee injury. He wasn't, a starter with a ton of experience before that. Yikes. You got to wonder what you have there. It's got to make San Francisco fans a little bit nervous. Maybe it's just the preseason, the lack of urgency, the vanilla playbook. I don't know. Maybe he came across a defense that was playing their week 1 defense and not the vanilla defenses that you usually see in preseason. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but it didn't look good. And again, if I'm a San Francisco fan, makes me a little nervous. That's pretty much it from the... Don't you hate white shirts? I mean, I like white shirts. I like the way I look in a white shirt, but they attract lint. We have a cat, and he must run around my closet all the time because I've got lint all over me. It's terrible. Hopefully you can't see it too much on the broadcast. Moving on. So, baseball this weekend, we had Players Weekend. Now look, of the major sports, I don't think any of those sports is trying harder than baseball to be relevant and to get themselves in the good graces of young fans and build the future fans for baseball. So they do this Players Weekend. They use alternate uniforms. They let the guys wear whatever kind of shoes they want with all kinds of cool designs. They put nicknames on the back of their jerseys as opposed to just their last name, or in the case of the Yankees, no name. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's great. But MLB, black and white uniforms, black lettering on black uniforms in the middle of August, white uniforms with white lettering that you can't read. Are you kidding me? Whose brilliant idea was that? The entire marketing department needs to be fired. That's crazy. Hey, baseball, give them uniforms where you can see the nickname. And the other thing, ESPN and Fox and all this stuff, help them out. Put the nicknames in the player's name in the little on the screen, right? Gary Kraken Sanchez. Shout out to the Kraken. Shout out to our friend Juan Adams, the Kraken. I mean, help us out. Help us out. And for the guys that went with no nickname, come on, man, make something up. Zach Greinke, you cannot go with Greinke on Players Weekend. Come on, man. I understand you may be a little boring. Look, if you don't have a nickname with your teammates, if you've never had one before, if you've never in your life had a nickname, and Players Weekend is coming up and you have to submit a nickname and you can't even think of one, hey man, just ask your teammates. They'll be more than glad to come up with some goofy nickname for you. G-Man. Zaxter. I don't know, but don't go with Greinke. Come on, man. Oh, it's Players Weekend. I'm going to go with my nickname. Montana. Can you be any more boring? Come on, man. Let the kids play, right? Be a kid. Make up a nickname. Didn't you make up a nickname when you were a kid? I didn't. But that's because they gave me a nickname. Right? What? I mean, I don't remember what it was. Easy Money? Because I was broke? Easy E? Because I like rap? I don't know. I don't even remember. But if it's Players Weekend and they're going to put it on the back of your jersey, come on, just play the game. Make one up. The Grinkster. You could have gone with Gronk or Grink. Well, maybe not Grink. That sounds too much like Twink. Probably didn't want to do that. But still, you could have came up with something. And again, if you can't come up with something, open up the floor to your teammates. I am sure they would come up with something. Now, some of it might not be flattering, but you have veto power. You can say, okay, that's not going to work. I'm not going to put G-Spot on the back of my jersey. But G-Man, there you go. G-Money. G-Rizzle. I don't know, something. Jeez, play along. And MLB, all the players were wearing some really cool, colorful shoes. You notice that they were all wearing colorful shoes, not plain white shoes with some kind of white writing on them. They weren't wearing black shoes with black writing on them. Why do you think they did that? Probably because it's a little more eye-catching than those god-awful all-black unis you made the visitors wear and the all-white unis you made the home team wear. The white unis actually didn't look bad except for the fact you couldn't read them. Terrible idea. They've done much better in previous years. It's unfortunate. But at least you got to give it up to MLB. They're trying. They're trying. They're trying. And that's good. As far as for the actual product on the field, we got treated to really a World Series preview, a playoff caliber series between the Yankees and the Dodgers. They split it, but it was, it lived up to the hype. They played good, solid baseball between them, and it was a lot of fun to watch. The atmosphere was electric, and especially considering that it was in LA where the fans can be kind of flippant about these things, it had quite the buzz. And there were a lot of Yankee fans there. Maybe that's why it had a lot of buzz. But the fact of the matter is there was a lot of buzz. And we could see those two teams in October playing in the Fall Classic. The Yankees look like they're going to win their division and go into the playoffs, be able to set their rotation as best they can. They don't have the best rotation in the world. But one thing they can do, they can hit. 1 through 9, they hit. So they could make it through the gauntlet that is the American League playoffs because, of course, they're going to have to contend with the Astros, who I think are the favorites to come out of the American League, the Twins, who look like they're the real deal. I mean, we're getting to the end of August, and they're still 3 games up on the Indians, so they look like the real deal. The Indians look like the real deal. They look like a tough team that you're going to have to deal with in the playoffs. And then whoever the 4th wild card is nothing to sneeze at. Tampa Bay has battled through some injuries, and they continue to hold that last wild card spot. And the A's are only half a game behind. And the A's, people are sleeping on the A's, but they had a very good series against the Astros this week. They had another good last week, at the tail end of last week, followed up by another good series with the Yankees. I believe they swept the Yankees. They look like a team that really means business. And if they can win the games they're supposed to win, right? Because the schedule won't be Astros and the schedule won't be Astros and Yankees all the way through. So it'll get easier at some point. If they win the games they're supposed to win, then they could be a handful for some people. I'm looking to see when they played the Yankees. So, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they swept the Yankees. It was a 2-game set, but still, nothing to sneeze at. They took 2 out of 3 from the Astros. So obviously they're a team that means business. I'm checking the, yeah. They took 3 out of 4 from the Astros and split with the Yankees. So, man, you go 4-2 through that gauntlet. That's pretty good. And now they're getting a little bit of a respite, right? They got the Giants over the weekend. They're getting the Royals tonight here at the beginning of this week. Don't sleep on the A's. But back to my original point, the Yankees look tough. And the Dodgers are 20 games up in the West. Obviously, they're going to win the West. They've got a bit of a cushion as far as the best record in the National League goes. So they're probably, the road to the World Series is going to have to go through LA. The Braves are looking like they're a serious contender. And I know we got a month to go, but these teams are really looking tough. The Central, man, the Cardinals are playing lights out. The Cubs are trying to get better, but they just got swept over the weekend by the Nationals, who are playing good ball. And, the Phillies are still in it in the wild card chase, but it's going to be tough. And the Brewers are still in it in the wild card chase, but the Brewers kind of look like a team that's given up. I mean, they just don't look good. They're getting thrashed by the Cardinals again tonight. They took a beating from the Cardinals last week. It's not looking good for the Brewers, and these division games are critical, and they are just not playing well against the Cardinals in particular. It's going to be a tough road to hoe. But the Dodgers look like the class of the National League. And so, yeah, this weekend, that Yankees-Dodgers series looked like a World Series preview. And it was fun to watch. Good baseball all the way around. A word of caution to the Yankees, though. You guys got to stop fighting with the umpires. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the umpires have it in for the Yankees. If they don't, there's a bit of a backlash from that "my guys are savages" tirade that Aaron Boone went on. But look, it seems like every game that I see of the Yankees, part of the highlights includes some kind of argument with an umpire about a play at second, about the strike zone. You guys got to stop. You got to stop. At the end of the day, these umpires are human beings. And if you keep rattling their cage, they're just going to be angry with you. And guess what's not going to change? The way they call balls and strikes. And guess what's not going to get overturned? Them calling more strikes against your batter, or widening or making a bigger strike zone for you guys. I mean, you can't fight that. Quit arguing. It was cute. The Savage comment was fantastic. I hope someone made t-shirts and made a lot of money on it. Great. Now stop it, or you're going to cost yourself at some point. I don't think the umpires have it in for the Yankees. I think it's just kind of the way, it happens sometimes. Sometimes you just get into a little rut where you just get a few bad calls against you, but I don't think it's a big deal. But it can't be something that gets out of hand, because these guys are going to keep calling games. You're going to see these guys in September, and more importantly in October. So stop arguing with them and just deal with it. It's okay. You'll be okay. Just stop. What else? I forgot to mention the Mets in the wild card chase. They're still in it. They're really trying to stay in it. They had a rough go with the Braves this weekend, but again, they're not going to play the Braves every week. They'll get their fair share of games against the Marlins, just like everybody else, and hopefully they can stay in it, maybe even make some hay and win that last wild card spot. It's not going to be easy. That's a tough road, because those teams will beat up on each other. The Mets will play quite a few games against the Nationals, who are in the hunt, the Phillies, who are in the hunt, and of course the Braves, who are leading the NL East. So they do not have it easy. Right now they're 2 games out of that last wild card spot held by the Cubs, and the Cubs just went through a disastrous weekend as well. So it could have been worse for the Mets. I mean, they could have really fallen off the pace, but the Cubs lost 3 games, and the Phillies struggled a little bit with the Marlins, and Milwaukee's just been flat out struggling. And so, they were lucky to not fall further behind. But it's dicey. That's going to be the race to watch. The race in the Central, the Cardinals are up 2.5, and they could kind of start to run away with this. They're playing really good ball right now, so that may end up not being much of a race. But that wild card race looks like it's going to be interesting. The Nationals are 4 games up on the Cubs, so they look like they're certainly in the driver's seat, and they're playing good baseball as well. They're really hitting the cover off the baseball. Anthony Rendon has just been one of the hottest players in the league. I believe he won the Player of the Week this week. So he's doing some stuff. I mean, he has really stepped it up here lately. And then the other team we like to talk about every now and then, the Red Sox. It looks like they shut down Chris Sale for the rest of the year. They look like they've kind of packed it in. It looks like that might be it for them, which is kind of amazing that they had such an incredible year last year, winning the World Series, and really Alex Cora could do no wrong. He pushed all the right buttons, and now this year they're not even going to make the playoffs. A team that's pretty consistently towards the top of the American League, and not this year, just struggling. So that is that, as they say. What else? The only other thing I've got is, and this goes out to, this is something for our younger audience, right? If you're going to play the game of baseball, you play it all out. I tell this to the kids all the time when I used to coach. You play the game top speed. There's a lot of standing around. I understand there's a lot of standing. There's a lot of waiting. There's a lot of intermissions, right, between every inning, pitching changes and whatnot. There's a lot of breaks. But when it's go time, it's go time. When you swing as hard as you can. When you throw as hard as you can. When you run as fast as you can. And it doesn't matter where the ball goes, you run hard. And I thought it was an excellent job by the Braves this week. They pulled Acuna out of the game for not running a fly ball that ended up being a really long single. He thought it was gone, I guess, and he was going to start trotting, although he hung around home plate for quite a while staring at it, and ended up with the longest single of the season, a 390-foot single. And they pulled him out of the game, and rightfully so. You got to run the ball out, man. And he's a young guy. It's a brain fart. I mean, look, I'm not gonna crucify the guy. He thought it was gone. He misjudged it. He didn't even get into a trot right away. Okay, it's a mistake. I'm not gonna crucify him, but you got to get going. And hats off to the Braves manager for taking him out. That's a guy that they need. And he's sending a message to the entire team that we're going to play hard. It doesn't matter how big of a lead we have on the Nationals. It doesn't matter if we're playing a game against the Marlins or we're playing against the Dodgers. We play this game hard all the time. And that's the way it should be. That's the right way to play baseball. And I hope that, that's something worth talking about. That's something that hopefully every dad pointed out to his kid. Look, even in the majors, man, you gotta go. You can't just stand around and hope for the best. So, it's just it's unfortunate that stuff happens, but I think it's a good lesson for everyone. You got to play this game all out, man. I know there's a lot of stand. You got plenty of time to relax in baseball. You got plenty of time. You got time to chew sunflower seeds, spit out the shells, have a good time. You get a lot of time to sit in the dugout. Half the game you're sitting, right? You're sitting in the dugout. It's okay. But when it's time to go, man, let's go. It's go time. Imagine if a football player did that. A receiver going down the sideline. he's not sure if he's going to score the touchdown, so he's just going to jog it out. He's going to get creamed. Imagine you're just, I don't think I can dunk this basketball. I'm just going to jog. Someone's going to come behind you and steal that ball on the breakaway. So, anyway, that's the way it goes. Well, that's pretty much all I have, folks. I hope you have enjoyed the time. I certainly have enjoyed sharing my thoughts with you. Go Andrew Luck. Congratulations on retirement. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find something else that makes you passionate and makes you get out of bed every morning for the rest of your life and enjoy your family and the millions you've made. Do something good with all that money and, enjoy life. Indy fans, get over it. Jacoby Brissett will do well for you guys. It's not going to be that bad. It's okay. Texans, don't get robbed. Clowney is a big asset. Get what he's worth. Just because you have an injury somewhere doesn't mean you got to take other people's scraps for a quality player. Acuna, run the ball out, man. Don't mess around. Run the ball out. Play the game hard. Full throttle, man. Full throttle. You got plenty of time to rest when you get back to the dugout. What else? I guess that's it. Those are the key points from today. I hope you all have enjoyed this episode. Episode 89. Episode 89. Let's see. Famous number 89. Steve Smith Sr. Not Jr. Sr. Steve Smith Sr. There you go. Another 89. I can't think of another one off the top of my head. Oh, well. If Alex was here, I'm sure he would think of none. He's terrible at the number game. It's going to get really hard when we get up to like 123. Who was number 123? I don't know. I guess we'll take the 1 off and just do 23. But this is episode 89. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. As always, folks, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you listening and sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you very much. A shout out. I have 2. My first shout out goes to the River Ridge Little League baseball team. Yesterday, they won 8-0 over Willemstad from Curacao, from the Caribbean. They won the final of the Little League World Series, and they lost their first game and then had to play their way through the losers bracket and the U.S. bracket and make it to the final. They had to beat a very good team from Hawaii on Saturday. On Sunday, they crowned themselves Little League World Series champions. Hats off to them. My other shout out goes to Tristan Kalkruth. I hope I'm saying that right. Tristan Kalkruth. Sweet Tea, as they call him. I went to see a little local boxing on Friday night, and this gentleman from Duncanville, Texas, with a record of 1-0, came in and fought a 4-round fight against a gentleman from New Orleans, I believe he was from, Aaron Valentine. And a very good fight. Tristan Sweet Tea Kalkruth, he dominated the fight, pretty much did whatever he wanted, and the gentleman from New Orleans was a little bit afraid, wasn't swinging a whole lot of punches. And I guess in the third round, they told him he needed to open up a little bit and he needed to start throwing punches. And now I know why he wasn't throwing punches, because he didn't want to get caught. And man, did he get caught. Tristan with a vicious, vicious left hook that left Mr. Valentine sitting, I'm not kidding, sitting on the second rope. It was not good. And then immediately afterwards, Tristan did a backflip, which, I mean, honestly deserves a shout out for the backflip alone, because I can't do one. And he did it in the spur of the moment. One knockout of the night. He is 2-0. Oh, I almost forgot the most impressive thing about Tristan. He's 17. That kid had to go back to high school today. He's 17 years old. Keep your eyes and ears open. If you're a boxing fan, keep your eyes and ears open for Tristan Kalkurth, because that kid's going to be good. 17 years old, he amassed a 70-7 amateur record, and now he is 2-0 with 2 knockouts as a professional. Keep an eye out for him, because he's going to be good. So, with that, I have come to the end of another wonderful episode of the Positive Sports Podcast. I will send Alex everyone's well wishes. I know everyone's going to miss him. I always get a bunch of nasty comments about how the show is better with Alex here. Well, he'll be back next week. Don't lose hope. He will be back. I hope he's back because I like the podcast better with him here as well. But until then, folks, ignore the negativity. Be the positivity. Peace.